Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about something that's on the minds of a lot of parents, neurodevelopmental delays. If you've ever had that quiet little worry in the back of your mind about your child's development, then you're in the right place. Our whole goal here is to give you some clarity, a bit of comfort, and really a clear path forward. So let's get started on this journey together. How many times have you heard someone say that? Or maybe even said it to yourself? Oh, don't worry, they'll catch up eventually. And look, a lot of the time, that's absolutely true. Kids develop at their own pace. But sometimes, that little gut feeling, that instinct that something might be off, well, that deserves a closer look. It's really all about getting some peace of mind. And this is exactly where it starts for so many of us, right? It's not this big, dramatic panic. It's just a little question that pops into your head while you're watching your kid play. You see other kids their age and you just wonder, is my child on track? If that sounds familiar, I promise you, you are not the only one feeling that way. Okay, so if we're going to create a helpful roadmap, we first need to understand the map key. We have to define our terms. So what do we actually mean when we say developmental delay? Let's break it down in a really simple, straightforward way. This is it at its very core. It's not some scary, permanent label. It's just an observation. A neurodevelopmental delay simply means that a child is taking a little bit longer to reach certain skills. Things like talking or walking or interacting compared to most other kids their age. That's all it is. And what's super helpful is to see how development gets broken down into these different areas. A delay isn't just one single thing. It can show up in different ways. Maybe it's in their speech and language, or maybe it's with bigger movements like crawling or walking. It could be in how they use their little hands, or even in how they figure things out and connect with other people. Knowing where the delay might be is the first step to getting the right kind of support. So why do these delays happen? Well, there are a bunch of possible reasons. Sometimes it's linked to being born prematurely, because their brain just had less time to develop. Other times it could be an underlying genetic thing, or maybe just a difference in how their brain is wired. And honestly, this is exactly why taking a closer look is so important. It helps us understand the why behind the what. And this is the main takeaway here, okay? A delay does not automatically mean there's a serious, lifelong issue. Not at all. A lot of delays are pretty minor, and kids grow out of them. But the only way to know for sure and to make sure you get the right help if it is needed is to be proactive and just take that closer look. All right, so you've got that quiet concern we talked about. What are the actual signposts you should look for? The things that might signal, hey, maybe it's time to get this checked out. Let's walk through some of the key things to watch for. Think of this as your practical checklist. Are you noticing that your child isn't hitting those big milestones around the same time as their friends? Or, and this one's really important, have they actually lost a skill they used to have? Other signs could be seeming a little less engaged, struggling with coordination, or maybe there are known risk factors, like if they were born premature. If any of these are ringing a bell, an evaluation is a really good proactive next step. And this right here, this is the whole point. This is the heart of it all. Deciding to check things out isn't about being pushy or overly worried. It's about opening the door to support as early as you possibly can. Because when you identify a need early, you can get help early. And that early support, that intervention, can make a massive positive difference in a child's entire life. It can literally change everything. Okay, so let's say you've decided to get an evaluation. What does that actually look like? The idea of it can sound really intimidating, I know, but it's really just a clear, structured process designed to get your answers. It's a path. So here's how it usually goes, step by step. It almost always starts with just a conversation, where you talk about your child's history and milestones. Then there's a gentle physical and neurological exam. After that, specialists use different tools. Often they're just playing with your child to assess their skills. And it's only if it's really needed that they'd suggest more complex tests. And then, the most important step of all, making a plan. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this part, it's this. An evaluation isn't about getting a thick, complicated medical report that you can't even understand. No, the whole point is to walk away with a clear roadmap, a simple guide that tells you exactly what to do next, whether that's some therapy or just the reassurance that everything's okay. And of course, probably the very first question any parent has is this going to be hard on my child? You want answers, for sure, but the last thing you want is to put your little one through something stressful or scary. Well, the answer here is so reassuring. For the most part, a developmental evaluation just feels like playtime for a kid. Seriously, the specialists are amazing at just observing and interacting in a really fun, natural way. Those more intensive tests, like imaging, they're only brought up if there's a very clear medical reason to do so.
Okay, but what about this? This is another huge hesitation for parents. What if you go through this whole process and it turns out your gut was wrong and the doctor just tells you, yep, your child is just a bit of a late bloomer? Was it even worth it?
100% yes. It is absolutely worth it. Because you know what one of the best possible outcomes of an evaluation is? Peace of mind. Getting a professional to tell you, you're right, they're on their own timeline and they're doing just fine, well, that's incredibly valuable. It lets you trade in all that worry for confidence.
So we've figured out the terms, we've looked at the signposts, and we've walked through the evaluation process. Now, let's talk about the destination. Let's talk about turning all those answers into positive, helpful action.
Now, we have to talk about this because it's often the big unspoken question in the room. When parents notice social or communication delays, it's totally natural for their minds to wonder about autism, and it's a really important, valid concern.
And here's the honest, direct answer. Yes, sometimes developmental delays can be an early indicator of autism. But, and this is a big but, it's so important to remember that they are not always linked. There are lots of other reasons for delays. A good evaluation is designed to gently and supportively explore all the possibilities, including this one. Ultimately, the whole philosophy behind this is exploration, not labeling. It's about opening up the map of your child's unique development, not just slapping a sticker on a box. It is totally okay to be unsure. This whole process is about discovering your child's path with an expert guide right there with you.
And let's end with this thought, because it's so powerful. Seeking help early isn't about being an impatient parent or trying to rush your child along. It's actually the opposite. It's about listening to your gut, respecting your child's individual needs, and giving them every tool they need to thrive. Trusting your instincts is the very first step on what can be a really hopeful path.